Now, so far we've done some quite simple techniques in the software, just a couple of clicks of the button. Sometimes we can have even more challenging samples though, where sometimes we're going to have the software do part of the work for us, and then it's up to us to do the final part. Here we have a Vietnamese banknote, and it's actually been treated with ninhydrin. So we have that kind of pinky purple colour on top of this kind of blue and yellow banknote. So again, I would photograph that with our ring light, with our daylight filter, in order so the camera can see all of the colours in the image. And this is kind of what we would get on the screen then, our fingerprint. Now, we have a tab here called Irregular, because this is technically an irregular pattern. There's no consistent pattern moving through it. It's made up of lots of different types of patterns and different colours. And here we have our Advanced feature. Now, Advanced is quite similar actually to Currency when we start the process. It's going to still do that colour channel extraction. So if I now press Start, you'll see the DCS works in a very similar way. We have our original image appears in the centre, but this time we have 6 different options around the back. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to grayscale our original image. This then appears in the top left corner. Now, it's not just about colour channel extraction with Advanced mode, because here we have different examples. Some are already actually quite good. So for example, this one, we see a really nice clear finger mark. That would be great. That would be useful for a lot of fingerprint examiners. They'd easily be able to identify that finger mark. But we can make it better. And this is the thing. Sometimes you're not always going to get perfect finger marks on your surfaces. Sometimes you're going to get partials. Sometimes you're going to get marks that are smeared, for example. You might not see some of the characteristics, some of the main characteristics you may look for, like the core or the delta. So this is where the Advanced Background tool can come in useful to help us with those really challenging fingerprints. Now, what we're trying to do with Advanced is we're actually going to look at the tones of grey in the image. So we're going to consider the finger mark, but actually the most important aspect that we're looking at here is the background. Now, in our original image, if you look at the etching on the actual banknote itself, you'll see a lot of the detail is now turned to a dark colour. What we also have is our fingerprint, and the fingerprint is a dark colour as well. Now, with the background, what we're going to try and achieve is we're going to try and remove that background. And because the background is dark, the way that we can do this is if we actually look for another background from the other images here that is the opposite, okay? So if we look for a background that is white in colour, that's the opposite to black, when we actually blend them together in the software, they'll cancel each other out, which means that they'll disappear. So this is the part that we as the user actually have to think about it. And we actually have to search through our images to find a background that is the opposite colour so we can blend them together and make the background disappear. Now, we do also have to consider the fingerprint here, because if we do the same with the fingerprint, if we look for a fingerprint that is white, we'll actually cancel out the fingerprint and make that disappear, which is not what we want to achieve here. So actually what we want to look for in this example is a fingerprint that is the same colour. So really what we're looking for in here is we want a background that is the opposite colour and a fingerprint that is the same colour. So realistically, the two that we're probably going to look for are either option 3, because the fingerprint is dark but the background is white and therefore the opposite, or option 5. Now with option 5, I can see more ridge flow running through this area of the etching on the bankmark. So I'm going to pick image 5. So a bit like Currency, we simply just select that image and they then appear side by side. Now here in our enhancement toolbox, we have our blend two images bar together. This is actually really, really simple to use because we're just going to adjust this red. So now we're going to have a look at our blend two images feature here. This is actually really simple to use. We're going to look for our blue arrow, and we're actually just going to simply move this along the bar to adjust. We're going to see the adjustment in our original image. So this is the area of the screen we want to focus on. And what you'll see is as you move this bar along, you will start to see the image change. Now, we're not going to adjust it all the way across to the other side. If we adjust it to the 100 mark, all you actually then physically see is the same as what is in your image overlay that we've created. So what we're actually looking for is somewhere in the middle, as we move along and adjust, there will be a point where your background completely drops out. So it's probably going to be about here in this image. But actually what you can see is we don't see any black, any white in the background. You might still see the physical etching that's on the banknote itself, but now there's no colours in the background interacting. Now once you're happy with this, you click Finish. And there's your sample. We can click Reopen again. And if we put them side by side, we have our original banknote on the right with all of the different colours, and then our final image on the left with just our fingerprint and no interference from the background.